a sweatshop or Disneyland for all I know. In the past, we've seen numerous ex-Valve employees detail their experience at the company. One post on Reset Era said that Valve almost entirely shifted all of their focus from game development to cosmetics and microtransactions. You don't say! This post also says a senior Valve employee stated that the company would never make another single-player game because they weren't worth the effort.
I put these financial projections together and try to pitch them internally. Like, hey, marketing, balance, budget, we would have $200 million first year. Amazing, wouldn't it? And then I would get responses like, that's $0 billion. That's kind of
Does that make sense?
This is seniority. Is that there is still seniority, but it is invisible and thus deniable. We believe this guy, the Valve's flat structure in the pizza shop are a front for a secret hierarchy and drug gang in the back. Anyone in the secret hierarchy with authority could simply claim to be a regular Joe when it's convenient for them, or take responsibility for other people's work. Side note, a verified Valve employee did respond to this post. Another former Valve employee, Jerry Ellsworth, was fired in 2013 following a mass layoff that she said forever changed the company for the worse. She gave an in-depth interview on Tyler Vicker's channel, and in it she says when Valve fires someone, they offer a severance package in exchange for them signing an NDA that prevents them from speaking publicly about their time at Valve, be it positive or negative. You're fired. Get out. Here's some money. Don't ever run your mouth again. I imagine the NDA is why we see so many people come out anonymously. He also reiterated that there was a hidden management team behind the scenes. I don't think Valve's problem is necessarily with the flat structure. It's proven it can work in the past with small groups. Valve is no longer a small company, so the traditions and methods they cling to are effectively neutering their artistic growth and creative expression. It does kind of seem like the culture of Valve has been contaminated. With so many people working on different projects, the core values they used to have don't seem to be shared across the board. Another ex-Valve employee, Jeff Geldrake, said that Valve's payments were heavily based on incentive bonuses. Basically, chaos is a ladder and every employee's trying to climb it. And with their hands-off approach, this led to, well, particularly nasty devs who would do everything they can to lead you down blind alleys or just give you bad information or bogus feedback to prevent you from doing something that could make you look good. So that's pretty fucked up. Jeff said that Valve higher-ups would hold your bonus hostage or claim your work as their own, and that it was basically company legalized extortion. Now, as I'll talk about later, Valve is not above extortion of its employees or its fans, so I really don't know if they deserve the benefit of the doubt here. Now, when looking at all these statements from ex-Valve employees, I noticed one thing. Every single post came out after 2011, which leads me to believe there was a huge shift in the company's culture. Whether or not you believe everything that's said on the internet, I think all these posts are indicative of a really unhealthy environment at Valve Corp. The sheer number of rumors, allegations, lawsuits, and shady stuff going on should tell you something's not right.
Something's not.
There may yet be hope for Valve, and I'll be excited if they ever start to make non-VR video games, hopefully before the death of my firstborn child. But generally speaking, companies that go down the dark path of profits over everything don't often tread back into the light. So we've kind of debunked the facade that Valve is the greatest place to work at, but the drawbacks of the flat structure become apparent in Valve's game releases, delays, and failed projects.
To give us warehouse and sale on big brands like microunits, ultra magnesium powder, $44.99 each. And jointies gel, $27.99 each. And Glow Lab vitamin C night cream, $13.99. Chemist Warehouse, raise the everywhere, great savings.
There's a big question to be made by the next single-player game. Made no formal proposals to anyone about these. Let them go to 2.0.
Interview is from 1998.
Grab seems to pick!
From Half-Life to Portal 2 is what's known as the old glory years. 2011 would be the last time Valve released a single-player game for the next 9 years. We were now in the dark. Valve is the type of company that will either put out a masterpiece or nothing at all. Where publishers like Bethesda, Activision, EA, and Ubisoft are more than willing to annualize franchises and pump out loads of garbage, Valve doesn't have to, and thankfully, they've never stooped to that level.
Like, we don't just crank Half-Life out because deliberately avoided imposing that constraint on
This structure no doubt attracted some of the best programmers in the industry. So it's no wonder why they've had such enormous success. Their methods work. Unfortunately, they're not consistent. What most people complain about Valve is how they've steadily been releasing fewer and fewer titles as time goes on. Where's Left 4 Dead 3? Where's Portal 3? Where's Team Fortress 3? It's gotten to the point where it's beyond memes. We're now at super memes, okay? Valve very much takes ownership of this, and apparently it hurts their feelings.
Hey, is that about ready? These things, they take time.
In the last 10 or so years, I'd say Half-Life Alyx is the only brand new game that anybody has even remotely cared about from Valve. Remember the phrase Valve time? Yeah, it was used to indicate the actual release date was going to be later than whatever they said it was. But most people were willing to wait and let the magic work itself. This is Valve, after all. Let me do us all a favor and get Half-Life 3, or should I say Half-Life 2 Episode 3, out of the way. The third and highly anticipated final expansion was meant for release in December 2007. So, I've got one question. Anyone want to tell me how in Buck's name the 6-month period turned into 15 goddamn years? I'm old now.
It's been 84 years.
To this day, Valve still has not made any official announcement canceling Half-Life 3 or Episode 3. And honestly, that's kind of a dick move. Valve can 1000% be criticized for their communication and radio silence.
We tend to view ourselves as subject to balance our ability to manage our schedules.
Do you have a goal?
I got nothing to say about Half-Life.
Okay, do you have a generous time frame?
I have nothing to say about Half-Life.
Is there some speck of information you can share?
I'm not saying anything about Episode 3.
Okay, fine. Do you have any intention whatsoever of fulfilling the promises you made years ago? Or are you just gonna brush these types of comments off for the rest of your life?
I can't not ask this one. He tells anything about when we'll see the 3. Are you still even working on Half-Life 2 Episode 3? Ask you the world's shortest question ever. Half-Life 2 Episode 3. Thank you.
You are gonna make Crowbar Simulator 3.
Half-Life 2 Episode 3. Ask you the world's shortest question ever. Half-Life 2 Episode 3. Thank you.
You are gonna make Crowbar Simulator 3. Fine. But just fucking tell us, dude. Tell me it isn't ever coming out so that molecule of hope within me can finally disintegrate. And that goes double for you, George. I know Half-Life Alyx is a thing, but in no way has it replaced the hole in our hearts Half-Life 3 is meant to be.
So, after something we're like, great, you're doing Half-Life, we're super excited. What's happening? Why does this happen? Yeah, it was a fair concern for you, right? Forced to be by VR Half-Life.
Trust me, I get it. This is their IP, and they can give Gordon Freeman the Captain Falcon treatment if they want. It's ironic, because Valve moved to episodic content to cut down on the time between releases. And it wouldn't have been such an unbearable period if Valve was out there making actual games or giving us legitimate progress updates. To be fair for a moment, we've finally gotten an explanation for why Half-Life 3 doesn't exist. And that whole show I was just putting on is how people must have felt during that time. There's a lot of valid reasons why Half-Life 3 and Bigfoot hang out together, and we know now that many other sequels have been in the works but also fell apart. And the truth is, we'll never know what really happened behind closed doors. Half-Life is near and dear to the heart of Valve. Pun intended, it was their initial spark and they wanted to do it justice. Now, but it quickly grew beyond the scope of reality. Apparently, Valve had to drop their classic flat structure and go with a hierarchy just to get the team to finish Half-Life Alyx, because they canceled 5 other Half-Life games in the process.
I guess I imagine in that regard, the time between episode 2 and Alyx maybe helpful. I think people no. That's a no. Okay.
That's Valve's Achilles heel. Without any kind of structure, projects, momentum, and motivation can fizzle out easily. Now, to be real, the lack of Half-Life 3 is kind of a middle ground. A terrible Half-Life 3 on par with Duke Nukem Forever would be a permanent stain on Valve's legacy, an insult to their fans, and even worse, the Half-Life name. Maybe Jesus was right and everything happens for a reason. But you know, some people on this crazy planet think Halo 4 had the best multiplayer. Some people even enjoyed Paper Mario Sticker Star, but nobody has ever enjoyed Half-Life 3. What I'm trying to say is with everything else Valve is doing that's really shitty, it would at least be more bearable if they were making games, which everybody wants them to. And not just multiplayer shooters so you can sell hats and weapon skins. More than anything, I want to see them return to those narrative-driven single-player games they were known for, which it appears like they're trying to do. But I'm not holding my breath. But I so desperately want to be excited again about Valve games. Valve is no doubt fallen as a developer, but what about as a company? But hey, Act-Man, they might not be releasing games, but at least they're still treating their consumers nicely, right? As the wait between releases has gotten longer and longer, Valve's money-making tactics have gotten more and more aggressive. But where to start? How about if I buy a game that sucks ass, what can I do with it? Historically, Valve has given little to no fucks about this question. In fact, they've had quite a few fistfights with consumer protection groups. It's kind of like challenging Mr. Rogers to a WWE SmackDown. In 2012, the European Union Supreme Court was like, so why can't people resell or trade their games in on Steam? I was taken aback by this and decided the best thing to do would be to update the user agreement to nullify any ability to transfer a piece of software, i.e., no reselling, no trading, no giving. Games are restricted to a single account, and if you didn't agree to this user agreement, then all your games were locked. Some might think it's silly, the idea of reselling digital goods, but think about it. You buy a pack of cards or any physical product, you can do what you want with it. I can destroy that freaking vacuum cleaner over there if I want to. It's my right to do it. I bought it. So why would this only apply to physical goods? More importantly, why would Valve try to fight against giving people fair refunds? Money! In 2015, the French were up in arms and suing Valve for forbidding users to sell their games, and there was also no way to get your money back from your Steam wallet if something happened to your account. Rather than trying to work out their differences, once again, Valve stepped into the ring. Alright, I don't care what you think of Valve, but we got laws for a reason, bro. Just follow them. You ever heard of geo-blocking? Well, just last January, Valve and 5 Steam publishers were fined over $10 million by the European Commission. Geo-blocking is when you restrict content or products in certain countries. Here's this diagram if you want the full idea. About 100 Steam games were geo-blocked, and when confronted with the fine, the 5 publishers decided to comply for a 10% reduction in their fine. What do you think Valve did? Put on the fucking boxing gloves again, baby. Let's go. Who wants to be fucking? Oh, Valve's boxing career would extend to Down Under. Say you bought an early access survival game and it's barely playable. You should be able to return it. No refunds. This bout between Valve and the ACCC lasted 4 years because Steam didn't have a refund policy from 2011 to 2015. Why? Money. European and Australian laws state that people are entitled to a 14-day refund period. In light of another possible fine, Valve said, alright, we'll update the user agreement. Happy? Gabe, this new part you added says customers have to waive their right to a refund when they purchase a game. That's right. You didn't change anything. Yes, we did. Valve's response to the lawsuit, hey man, just because we sell goods through Steam to people in Australia, it doesn't mean we do business in Australia. You know what I mean? So your lawsuit is totally whacked, man. Given that there's 2.2 million users in Australia, this argument did not hold up in court. Valve had to cough up $3 million in fines for making false or misleading representations to consumers in relation to its online gaming platform Steam. Lesson learned, don't disrespect the dingoes.
That's a bloody outrageous!
So Valve updated their refund policy, except now it screws over other developers. One way or another, Valve wins. And even if you get your money back, where it goes? To the Steam wallet. And while they get 30% of every sale on Steam, they get 100% of every refund. Other developers get no cut. Valve may do sales and events that offer great deals, but in so many of their policies, they're quite literally anti-consumer. And that's been a hard pill for me to swallow. What bothers me is how Valve opposes all these policies, which are undoubtedly good for the 70 million people that use Steam. But what speaks to me about their character is how they react to it. After losing the refund dispute in Australia, this was part of Valve's statement. Steam voluntarily offers refunds to all of its customers worldwide in a way that is much more consumer-friendly than our legal obligations. Pretty bold words for someone who's just caught breaking the fucking law.
For the customer. We're just going to go rig or define it or manipulate this.
That's more money.
Valve's history with their community is one of the keys to their success. And coincidentally, part of their fall from grace. I'm referring to workshop content for CSGO, Dota 2, and other Steam games. In 2014, Valve set up a creator workshop for Dota 2, where artists would make their own cosmetics, fans would vote on them, and Valve would decide which ones they sell, giving the artists a cut of the sales. Great idea, right? Artists can channel their passion into Dota 2, engaging with the community, and potentially make some good money off of it. Valve themselves wouldn't have to do much work and could be praised. Some people were so successful they actually made full-time jobs out of it. For a time, it seemed like everyone was happy.
Looks like there's been a change of plan.
The initial agreement was that artists would get 25% of the revenue on the sale of their cosmetics. But a couple years ago, a Reddit post was written by several members of the Dota Workshop community. The post said in fall of 2015, Valve had sent out an email to artists telling them their 25% revenue cut had been slashed in half. Here's my money, Valve!
Yeah, it's coming. I'll be here in a few minutes.
Later on, these artists also realized Valve wasn't paying them on time, and they were pretty dodgy about the whole thing. You can read details here. Now again, these people weren't officially hired. And Valve offering payment to random people is laying out a nice welcome mat, but then they just rip the carpet out from under them. The problem is, the work these artists are doing is called speculative work. Pretty frowned upon by everyone. Here's a snippet of the terms of service. Except where otherwise provided, you agree that Valve's consideration of your workshop contribution is your full compensation, and you are not entitled to any other rights or compensation in connection with the rights granted to Valve and to other subscribers. So here's Valve's offer. You can't do shit with the art you make unless I say you can. I arbitrarily decide what, if anything, you are paid for it. You can't tell people what I'm paying you or how the skins are selling. There's no guarantee your work is going to amount to anything, and just by looking at it should be payment enough for you. What kind of fucked up stance is that? You can't help but think Valve started this whole workshop for good press only to flip the script and start exploiting their audience and just expected them to be okay with it. I'm not saying everyone who throws together a shitty image of a weed camo on Venomancer should be paid fat stacks, but don't you think Valve could figure out a more fair system? One of the workshop creators roasted Valve about all this. The amount of content Valve creates yearly for Dota is beyond miserable for a company of their size, experience, and financial status. Holy shit. You know, Valve can certainly be commended for launching these programs that lend a helping hand. But we didn't know that hand was soaked in cat piss. It's a delicate balance of fairness, and Valve has shown no restraint in exploiting the hard work of their fan base. What do I really see when I look at Valve? Well, I see a company that likes to make as much money as possible with the least amount of effort, and I see a company that likes to continuously push the legality of their business. Valve no longer pursues glory and greatness. They merely sustain it. Let's get all the kiddos in here and talk about gambling. It has to be restricted tightly or else it can be used to exploit people and minors. Now who wants another pack of artifact cards? Yay! In all seriousness, Valve may be the worst offender in the whole box gambling fiasco that's more or less died down. So by the rings, they sure made some good money off of it. So in 2013, the Arms Deal update went live for CSGO, which brought in tons of weapon skins and customization, because Valve wanted to draw people back into Counter-Strike by giving them free virtual items to grind for. It worked! And then they monetized it. Skins now had a real dollar value attached to them, meaning if you got the bestest skin in the world, you could sell it and make some fat profit. Of course, the odds aren't going to be disclosed. What do you think, you're not trying to make money or something? But this economy for Counter-Strike was much more insidious. It was highly publicized. HCH3 especially drew a lot of people's attention to it. By monetizing skins, allowing trading, and enforcing no rules on skin betting sites outside of Steam, Valve did nothing to deter the rise of a black market of digital goods. There were even allegations that these sites rigged the outcomes of certain esports matches. Valve later blocked CSGO Lotto from Steam services. Finally, they did the right thing. What the fuck? You overturned the ban? One of the many lawsuits filed against Valve said this. In sum, Valve owns the league, sells the casino chips, receives a piece of the casino's income stream through foreign websites in order to maintain the charade that Valve is not promoting and profiting from online gambling. This whole fiasco was one of the main driving points behind regulating online gambling a little bit more than not at all. On July 20th, 2016, Valve started cracking down on these websites, but the damage had already been done. Some estimates place the total value of gambled skins over the years at $12.9 billion. I mean, sure, Valve was able to breathe new life into Counter-Strike and keep its popularity soaring, but at what cost? I never could look at Valve the same way after this, and I still. Similar to their setup with the Dota 2 and CSGO Workshop, Valve also tried to monetize mods. Good grief, the internet lost their collective shit on April 23rd, 2015. Valve was collabing with Bethesda to start selling Skyrim mods that had previously been free, a system that had no problems whatsoever. Except one, it wasn't making money. Now they wanted to sell mods under the guise of supporting your local modder, but nobody was buying it. Instead, Valve and Bethesda would have taken 75% of all mod sales. Now, if they didn't shut this down because of backlash, I imagine the pay cut would have gone down to 12.5%, just like it did with the Dota 2 Workshop. There also would have been no standard of quality. Sure, sell the Shrek tank mod in Left 4 Dead 2 for $10. Valve doesn't care. Valve has always been a pioneer of the average Joe developer. Steam offers anyone the chance to get their game out there, and it's beautiful. Just imagine all the amazing experiences the world would have missed out on if Steam operated more like Nintendo. However, when you open the door to anyone, I mean anyone, well, it becomes just another way for people to exploit the system. Okay, it's impossible for Valve to be expected to playtest 50,000 games. But did anybody check that a game called Rape Day had been listed on Steam? I will say Valve is pretty awesome because they don't crack down hard on people modding or using their IPs. However, they need to crack down on shitty half-baked games like Hunt Down the Freeman. They have serious problems with quality control. When you combine that with a no refunds policy, it meant millions of gamers probably got suckered into buying some worthless crap with no recourse to get their money back. Time and time again, Valve shows us that their priorities lie in profits above the well-being of its fan base and consumers. Quality control isn't just about banning abusive games, it's about only selling quality products. Ironic that they weren't willing to release their own shitty games, but they would gladly do that with others. But now it's 2017. Valve has a new game to announce? Oh my god, really? Is it going to be Left 4 Dead 3? Half-Life 3? A new IP? Oh, fuck your mother. In fact, the Dota 2 card game. I think it's incredibly funny that Gabe Newell said he hoped Artifact would be for card games what Half-Life 2 had been for single-player action games. I'm gonna submit that to poorly aged things.
The Artifact was fine. We screwed it.
Instead, Artifact became Valve's biggest failure to date. And to me, it really sums up the state the company's been in for a long time. After patiently waiting for 6 years, you're telling me this was the project Valve was most passionate to make. A Dota card game. They weren't thinking about what fans wanted from them. They just wanted to pump out an easy game that would earn shitloads of money. The Artifact reveal was more of an out-of-season April Fool's joke than Diablo Immortal.
Is this an out-of-season April Fool's joke?
Oh, what are you thinking? Hearthstone is making so much money just so the dickheads at Blizzard we own their ass. I repeat, nobody wanted Artifacts. But you know, they did bring in Richard Garfield, creator of Magic the Gathering, and one of the guys who helped make Gwent. How bad could it be? Oh, that bad. Artifact was doomed from the start. Compression system at launch, or a mobile version of the game.
Yeah,
In order to get these actual cards, you had to buy them individually on the marketplace, buy more packs, or pay for tickets to play competitive modes. $20 to buy the game, $2 a pack. You're literally paying so you can pay to play a video game. There was no way to earn packs through just playing the game, and Valve had the nerve to say they designed Artifact specifically to avoid a pay-to-win game. You didn't learn a goddamn thing from CSGO, did you? Within 2 days of launch, the Axe card costed more than the game itself. You just had to drop money if you wanted to compete. Artifact was pretty reliant on luck, so it was no surprise that it lost 95% of its player base within 2 months, and now sits around 85 peak players on Steam. This is after it went free to play in March. Valve described the performance of Artifact as the largest discrepancy between their expectations for a game and the outcome. Yeah, I bet you thought you were gonna hit it big, didn't you? They did plan to relaunch it as Artifact 2, and nope, it's cancelled. Oh well. Yes, you can start giving real video games a shot. In conclusion, do Valve's successes and innovations offset the shitty anti-consumer things they've done? I don't know. Well, I can admire Valve for completely changing the wonderful world of gaming. They've done so in two polar opposite ways. Valve really has become Harvey Dent, two sides of the same coin. One good, one evil. They're partly responsible for both revolutionizing shooters and the increasingly illegal business that is loot boxes and microtransactions. Valve has made some of the best games of all time and enacted some of the shittiest policies of all time. There's almost no limit to the lengths Valve will go to ensure it continues to make billions of dollars, and I could care less if they were pulling $10 billion a year. What I care about is that putting in minimal effort, they spend a lot of time trying to avoid the legal ramifications of their, at times, unethical business. While Valve is more than willing to lend a helping hand to their community, they can just as easily flip the script and exploit that same community for profit. Valve has also proven in the past that they're totally fine with other people scamming their audience too. The company's flat structure seemed ideal, but it stopped being productive years ago. Countless game cancellations, delays, secrecy, radio silence have sapped a lot of hope from the core fans, making them irritable and impatient. From the sounds of it, the work environment is more tense than we think. On the bright side, Valve hasn't fallen so far that they've ruined their famous IPs or started cracking down on modders and independent creators like Nintendo has. So part of the real Harvey Dent must be in there somewhere amidst the noise, drama, and controversy. Still, their legacy on this planet is sealed. As a humble group of developers that rose from nothing and fell victim to greed, so many others.
You know, and we want to know, we want to find out, like, are we on the right track? Like, we want people to come back and say, oh my god, Magic is there.
And that's the rise and fall.
what they was. Now it's using when we would use
You look so much bigger in your photo.
Yeah, I guess that quite a bit.
How old is that thing? And that is why Warcraft 3 Reforged is so terrible I can't play a Blizzard game ever. It too pains me to hear what Blizzard has become. Shall have your wish granted. Funny. My mind is completely blank now. I could have sworn I was just upset about something, but strange, I don't really. Sit with me. I have a tale for you. Oh, bull. Is it about video games? What the fuck you think it is? Of course we're What do you wish to tell me, old man? Well, long ago, video games were much simpler. There existed a company called Blizzard. Over time, Blizzard released several outstanding games. Won not only awards, but hearts of millions. Every new title Blizzard managed to outdo themselves. They were like Tom Brady. For many years, Blizzard commanded great respect from gamers everywhere. But what happened? The games were great, right? They kept making them? I don't believe you can target a single mistake. This, where it all went wrong. Though Blizzard was well loved by many gamers, at some point, something of them wished, thought, well, they were no longer on my feelings. We saw the match. There's got to be good. Tell me everything. If you would insist. The decline of Blizzard is not a story. Decline of Blizzard is not a story about a successful business that's now failing, but rather a business that continues to fail its fans. Blizzard was one of my favorite game developers of all time. My love for this company started when I was like 5 years old, and I've given them more than a decade's worth of support. Blizzard, Nintendo, Bungie. These were the companies I knew of growing up as a kid. All of them were gods in my eyes. Nothing makes me feel old quite like reminiscing on the first time I ever played a real computer game. Now, sitting there with Pajama Sam, Freddy Fish, Math Blaster, Dad bursts into the room, sits me down and says, "Son, you're almost 5 years old, but you've got a lot of manning up to do. It's time for a real game." Hands me StarCraft, and it was like I'm Harry Potter grabbing the wand that was destined for me. I have so many vivid memories of playing the single-player campaign, custom games, loving the story, voice acting. On and on and on about how awesome these games are, and hopefully I get to make a video about them someday. Storytelling was out of this world. What really blew me away were the cinematics. That intro to Brood War, I love that intro so much I parodied it in a horribly irrelevant video. StarCraft was so awesome beyond what Blizzard created themselves, and the map editor allowed for unique custom games that anyone could play. Around this time, my brother and I somehow got our hands on a copy of Diablo, and holy hell, scares me shitless. So bloody and graphic. Later I realized in therapy just how traumatized I was by the picture. I can still hear his voice now. Addicting, satisfying, Diablo was a terrifying introduction to RPGs. Years later, Chapow! Reign of Chaos showed off the power of Blizzard's battle drum. Frozen Throne comes out and it's like, okay, what have I done to deserve this? An RTS with heroes that level up in combat would set the foundation for what World of Warcraft would become. You know this part of the story.
I'm Mr. T and I'm a night elf more. What's your game?
World of Warcraft took the world by storm. Earth and fire. But looks like real estate now became a pop culture phenomenon. I'll never forget the South Park episode where Blizzard and Comedy Central collaborated to make fun of the game. There was so much to love about Blizzard, and their community, their identity, just the fun-loving spirit behind everything. Now, even though this video is going to be more on the negative side, I have a special place in my heart and memory for Blizzard as they were, the great people who were a part of it, and the incredible experiences they gave me that I bought. It's not to say they haven't done any good over the last decade. Overwatch was awesome, WoW Classic, an incredible trip down memory lane. Look, I'm not saying Blizzard as a whole is a reprehensible anti-gamer movement led by Anita Sarkeesian, whose sole purpose is to destroy all your favorite franchises, usher in the age of the burning legion. It's not that extreme, alright? Truth be told, I don't have much good to say about current Blizzard. And that's where I want to focus, on where they went wrong. They destroyed their own reputation and image in my eyes. Eyes of an old-time fan.
The anime is fun.
When Blizzard tasted the cursed waters of Activision and merged with them in 2008, it wasn't a highly controversial move at the time. God 4 had just released 8 months earlier, Guitar Hero was the hottest fad since the Wii, and they hadn't milked any of those franchises to death. Back then, Activision wasn't the same money-grubbing company we know today. Or maybe they were, and they were just really good at hiding it. But none of us had the foresight to predict just how much this would affect their community, their culture, and their games.
Knowingly?
The journey starts in July of 2010. Blizzard had a serious problem. StarCraft 2 absolutely killed it with its reveal, generating massive hype and sending shockwaves across all of Korea. It had been 12 years since Brood. Fans could not wait. StarCraft 2 was coming out in 3 weeks, baby! However, Blizzard's official forums had become filled with vitriol, blame wars, trolling and community toxicity was spiraling out of control, which diluted the discussions about the games themselves. Blizzard could not have this continue with the launch of StarCraft 2. How do we change this toxic part of our community? One executive asked. Weight loss programs and general hygiene classes, another blurted out. I've got it. People won't talk as much shit on the internet when they can be held accountable for it. So let's force everyone who uses our forums to display their real name. Take that, trolls. Oh yes, that's a fantastic. Really? You're brilliant. Great. Why are you so smart? Okay, but how do we change this toxic part of our community without spitting in their face? The decision, of course, had the exact reaction you'd expect. Forums were flooded with complaints, and one thread reached over 11,000 replies. Look, I'm not saying let the trolls roam free in the forests of Buckland, but why wouldn't you just get moderators and or create stricter guidelines for using the forums? Forcing everyone to reveal personal information not only discourage people from posting, but also punish people who did nothing wrong. Ultimately, this new change would have created more problems than it would solve, so Blizzard scrapped it. But the fact that Real ID was even considered as a possibility, let alone planned to be implemented across the board, was really just such a bizarre, out-of-touch thing to even attempt. And then there's this. I work in a charity. If they see I am a gamer, it could affect my employment prospects. Gamers have been oppressed since 2010, baby. The outrage seemed to be only temporary. We only knew what was in store for us down the line. Blizzard has a long list of battles in the courtroom. None more famous than Valve Corporation, the Activision Blizzard. Of course, was over the legal rights to Defense of the Ancient, the most popular custom game for Warcraft 3. And it was a battle for the ages. Two of the biggest and most successful PC developers duking it out. Who will come out on top? From what I understand, Valve worked with Dota developer Ice Frog, who was later hired by them, and they wanted to trademark Dota as their intellectual property. Blizzard, of course, didn't want that. I don't want it. But Valve had already filed a trademark. Now, it's complicated, but for whatever reason, Blizzard and Valve settled out of court, with Valve keeping the rights to Dota All-Stars for commercial purposes, and Blizzard would be able to use it within their own custom games. This appears to have been a mutual agreement, but with hindsight, we see just how badly Blizzard was shafted. Nobody thought Dota would turn into the massive esports juggernaut that it is today. But you have to wonder, how could Blizzard just let the magic lamp slip through their hands? Many fans lost faith in Blizzard's ability to retain the rights and provide the games they wanted. World of Warcraft has been Blizzard's main moneymaker for years. With a large, diverse, dedicated community, throughout the Burning Legion and Wrath of the Lich King expansions, the game only grew in size. Cataclysm was a bit rocky, but it wasn't until May 2012 that Mists of Pandaria released, and a large portion of fans voiced their discontent. This was really the turning point for World of Warcraft and what turned many people off of that game. Blizzard reported that 14% of users had canceled their subscriptions, a loss of 13 million players, after a brand new expansion that's supposed to build the game up. Shortly after this, Blizzard stopped publicizing their subscription numbers, as showing a steady decline might further exacerbate the decline. There were many controversial changes to WoW over the years. Among many was the Dungeon Finder, expedited way of finding players for raids and instances. Initially, you had to rally a group of friends or other players and all commit hours to tackling these intense dungeons. That was a lot of fun. It created so much community interaction. Many of WoW's community-oriented features were made more accessible at the cost of player agency. World of Warcraft started to feel less like a world and more of an automated experience. And leave the main city if you can just hop into a queue and find a raider instance anyways. In some ways, I'm willing to give Blizzard the benefit of the doubt for WoW's decline in popularity. Keeping a game alive for that long is going to have some speed bump. And even though many fans have disagreed with the direction Blizzard has taken, at least they finally came out with WoW Classic, and both games seem to be coexisting peacefully. But here's where we get into the real shit. Maybe it was just my experience, but I vividly remember the launch of Diablo 3 as being one of the single most disappointing game launches of all time, next to MCC. What? It was that bad. Not only had basically all of the depth been stripped away from Diablo 2, not only feel like a poor man's version of Diablo 2, but it was also just straight up broke. I waited years for this game, and within 4 hours of gameplay, I was like, this ain't it, Chief, and never looked back. Always online and DRM features were heavily criticized, totally unnecessary for people wanting to just play single player.
Single player, is it? Says Diablo 3. Why did we force you to play online anyway, in case you change your mind? Kind of do as it happens, Diablo 3. Sorry, can't hear you up the sound of all my money!
The art direction was criticized, it didn't feel hellish, gameplay story was awful, excessive amounts of users. so reasonable. Everything was awesome. Didn't feel like Diablo. Sent it to you. Diablo 3 was subject to numerous fair trade organizations across the world. In France alone, a consumer group reported that there were 1,500 complaints in 4 days. The organization, forgive me, a Choisier asked Blizzard to, and this is my translation, tell us when the fuck the game is going to be playable. Be straight up, okay? Be a fucking homie. Blizzard responded by saying, there's a sticker on the box that says, internet connection required. The Fair Trade
I love it.
Homie. Blizzard responded by saying, there's a sticker on the box that says, the fuck the game is going to be playable. Straight up, okay? Be a fucking homie. Blizzard responded by saying, there's a sticker on the box that says, internet connection required. Fuck you! The Fair Trade Commission alleged that Blizzard had violated consumer rights laws in South Korea. Hundreds of gamers from there demanded refund, which Blizzard refused to grant until a month later. In Germany, the Federation of Consumer Organizations threatened legal action against Blizzard for their lack of transparency with the DRM, consumers' inability to resell the game. And then there was the auction house, a feature Blizzard implemented to make everyone's gaming experience much better, right? If the gameplay wasn't shallow enough, this fucking atrocity of a feature made it so players could literally put in real money to buy the best gear. This undercut the entire point of playing Diablo 3. The quest for gear comes from playing the game, killing monsters, doing quests. That's what makes it fulfilling, not by entering your credit card information. It was one of the earlier and more egregious forms of microtransactions, as Blizzard took a cut of all the profits. It took them 2 years to realize how damaging the auction house was, and would shut it down completely in March of 2014. At this point, we all started to worry and wonder, how could Blizzard continue to get into legal trouble? How could this company with a stainless track record bungle it so badly with Diablo 3? How could they betray us?
We didn't live up to the high standards that we really set for ourselves.
As WoW continued to lose subscribers, fans took it upon themselves to recreate the WoW game they wanted. Many private servers popped up offering different iterations of WoW that were no longer playable. Do you think when Burning Legion came out that it was the best? Here's your server. Wrath of the Lich King? Here's your server. Vanilla? Here's your server. Nostalria. It wasn't legal, but it showed a surprising demand for that classic vanilla experience. At a time, Nostalria's had 800,000 registered accounts. Naturally, having that many people flock to a service that you don't operate is bad for business, and in this case, copyright. The solution? Put it down, boys. Hold out their Warhammer. This story, Nostalria's was shut down. But that only seemed to further agitate the already upset fan base. A petition popped up, begging Blizzard to consider a vanilla version of WoW. It received over 280,000 signatures. They couldn't deny the facts anymore. A lot of people didn't like WoW anymore, and they wanted the old version. And naturally, Blizzard was upset because they felt fans weren't appreciating or understanding the work they were putting in.
Remember that one bug that really pissed you off that we fixed like 2 years ago? Still there in the past.
It was within their rights to terminate the server. For 3.5 years, no alternative was offered by Blizzard. And this was made all the more worse when J. Allen Brack, the new CEO, answered this question.
Have you ever thought about adding servers for previous expansions as they were then? No.
You don't want that.
And by the way, you don't want to,
Yeah, we're
to do
fucked
that.
with it.
You think you do, but you don't.
Shut the fuck
Here's a
up.
lesson in healthy business practices. Don't tell your consumers what they don't want. Show them why they want what you're working on. Better yet, listen to what your fans are asking for and meet that demand. There's no point in showing this kind of contempt towards your audience unless your goal is to purposely damage your own reputation and goodwill. Then, J. Allen Brack started talking shit about Classic WoW, how their expansions were so orgasmically good.
Remember when you had to, like, spam cities and say, need a tank, need a tank, need a tank during the Burning Crusade days? You don't remember that, because now you just push a button that says go to the dungeon.
You would be a fool to want the older, obsolete, inferior version of WoW. Don't fucking patronize me. With the shutdown, the Nostalrius team went to Blizzard's HQ and gave an 80-page essay on the development of the server. It looked and sounded like Blizzard was going to work with some of the Nostalrius devs to create WoW Classic. That would have been awesome. Spread some goodwill with the community, and these developers who made great representatives of the community would inspire faith in the company, but they never actually worked with them. And it really shows the sinful pride of Blizzard. For a long time, they just couldn't accept the fact that fans didn't like the newer expansions and how WoW was changing. But they were the ones out of touch, not the community.
Here, smash my confidence, and I'm just this is crazy. Bad, really.
Make today your turn. Smash me button would help regrow your hair.
Neil?
You guys not have phones? Yeah, you guys
Does not have phones.
BlizzCon is the annual convention held by Blizzard.
No.
It's an exciting event that showcases the major franchises. Celebrities make appearances, famous fans close out the show. It's just epic.
And
7.9.
Not many developers have an entire
like 14
convention
million.
at their disposal, and it's just Blizzard's way of showcasing their power, getting fans hyped to consume product. In 2018, BlizzCon became the opposite of that. Hear ye, fans of Diablo. Behold, the new experience you've been waiting for. Diablo, for immortal.
We knew we want to use mobile devices as the platform for a new Diablo game. Because nothing brings a family together like slaying demons.
Explain yourself. What are you doing?
People were confused, and through a series of hilarious questions in the faces of the developers,
Oh, no
the
one
situations
no one
started
wanted
to
to
get
fuck
out
with
of hand.
So how long has Diablo Immortal been in development and how is it affecting other Diablo projects? Well, you may or may not have heard.
Can you imagine the embarrassment of having a crowd of people at your own convention turn against you? But it should showcase just how out of touch you are with them.
In particular, the majority of the games are PC oriented, with Blizzard, Hearthstone being one of the other mobile games. Why bring it to mobile? Are you trying to reach a new audience of players?
What we remember about BlizzCon 2018 is the charcoal remains of the PR department.
Hey, just wondering, is this an out-of-season April Fool's joke?
Ah! No one wants that fucking shit.
Said they
Who
were
the fuck wants
surprised
a
by the
mobile game?
negative response.
Who the
What?
fuck wanted a
Now, either they're lying, or they are once again supremely and genuinely out of touch with their community.
So out of touch?
No, Blizzard, your fan base is mostly a PC gamer demographic. Those are the people who buy tickets to BlizzCon. If you want to make a phone game, make a phone game. Don't expect your fans to give a shit, or not bombard you with questions like,
is there any plans to make this or is this strictly mobile?
You get nothing!
Blizzard's ideals and principles were
I
shelved in
white
favor of tapping into the mobile gaming market. Didn't think they were selling out with the auction house. Sure did now.
Do you guys not have phones?
Yeah, you guys all have
phones. On your tablet too.
Hey, that really sucked!
Video game development is notorious for how hellish it can be. An extremely competitive market filled with stressful deadlines, long hours, hectic work weeks, and worst of all, uncertainty of consistent employment. When a game is finished and out the door, many employees have to wonder if they too will be sent out. Well, Blizzard answered that question by laying off 800 employees in February of 2019. 800 people.
It was like their
with
most
families
successful
and
year
lives
ever,
and income
which
they
was the
need,
fuck.
benefits, insurance, gone. Well, employees, this has been real educational and all, but now it's time to part with that old Activision Blizzard saying, "Get the fuck out of my building!" During this time, Activision Blizzard reported $7.5 billion in sales, $1.8 billion in pure profit. Crack the goddamn champagne bottles. What an accomplishment. You guys remember the Wii U? Yeah, it was pretty gross and flopping super hard back in 2014. Nintendo was not looking good. And at that point, the boss, Toru Iwata, took a pay cut to keep his employed. That was at the time when Nintendo saw a 30% decrease in profits. People look to big companies for guidance. We want to feel good about where our money is going. Is it going to Kotick's market? Or is it going to the people down and dirty on the front lines who sometimes work 70 plus hours a week? Nintendo made a statement about the importance of their employees. And Blizzard did the same. They were just radically opposite statements. Get that a company may take on more workers than they need over time, and Activision Blizzard might not have been able to find a place for these 800 lost souls. But does that make it any less disheartening for a company to be celebrating its greatest success without sharing that with some of the people who make it happen?
In June 2003, the Diablo project left, feeling like they weren't involved with the big decisions anymore and unable to guarantee their The Blizzard North executives protested. They even went so far as to tender their resignations unless they were heard. Unfortunately, those resignations
2019, perceptions around Blizzard had completely changed. And in October of 2019, professional Hearthstone player, the martyr Blitzchung, made a political statement in support of the Hong Kong protests while on a live stream.
Nuclear launch detected.
As Americans, we are naturally sympathetic to those who have had their freedom stripped away unfairly.
They say a man
Such as the undisputed case in China. I'm not trying to grandstand. China isn't exactly the paragon of human rights. Blizzard's monetary ties to China, many other U.S. companies, they have to tiptoe around China's strict guidelines to release their products in their country. They are very picky and very profitable.
China's actually a free and loving country.
Not taking any chances, Blizzard banned his app. Fuck those newcasters. No payment, you're gone, you're banned. Hope you learn your lesson. Speaking out about human rights issues. On our platform, this is not a political platform, except it is. But it's convenient for us. Now, I did a whole video on this subject. Please check that out if you're at all interested. I summarize it a lot more in depth, so I'll be brief. On its own, it's a fucked up decision. The George Floyd protests, it also shows the real double standard in hypocrisy. You banned Blitzchung, docked his pay, fired the casters involved, all because he supported protests in Hong Kong. And you have the gall to post bits on Twitter, as if your company presents this statement wholeheartedly. Racism is the place of our society or any society. Except Hong Kong and China. Those societies are cool. Nothing's wrong with them. All is well-consumed product. Even if you weren't just another company morally grandstanding on these protests and this issue while current is blatantly hypocritical. Outrage was so astronomical at Blizzard. The United States Congress asked them to reduce the punishment. Motherfucking Congress got involved. You fucked up so badly. Boycotts were gaining traction. Had yet another PR nightmare on their hands.
Base is under attack.
Hotel on the sea. Another attack.
Now, they eventually reduced the punishment, but never actually directly addressed the criticism. Only vaguely stated that we will do better going forward. J. Allen Brack deserves a lot of flack for how he handled this situation. You're supposed to be a leader. And at this point, Blizzard employees were probably feeling,
every decision you make that has come back to us.
at the present day. Warcraft 3 Reforged. A dream come true for me. You have no idea how badly I wanted to see the custom games and multiplayer revived and to get hyped about it as if Warcraft 3 was a brand new game. This is Blizzard's latest and most damning fuck up of all. With a chance to revitalize one of the most important video games of all time, with a chance to revive the community, gamers into RTS, genre that has been dying. Blizzard left the Warcraft 3 community in a worse place than if they had never touched it. How can a company actually deteriorate a product's value 18 years later? That's a topic for your business class, especially since the game still had an active community and you tore out features and content that they've enjoyed for years. The way Warcraft 3 launched is beyond belief. It illustrates just how far detached Blizzard has become from not only their past, but their fans.
We didn't live up to the high standards that we really had.
No shit.
Speculate it was released in the state it was because of shareholder pressure, something that ex-members of Blizzard have said is tampering the way that companies used to operate. Fans were beyond upset. and Warcraft 3 Reforged rightfully takes the crown for lowest review score on Metacritic. There was even a parody website called Warcraft 3 Refunded that just made fun of all the bullshit Blizzard had peddled about the game. I won't go into every detail. I'll link some videos that do if you're interested. But here are the main points. 1. Blatantly misleading marketing led people to believe this classic title would have all its cutscenes remastered and remade. But was not that. In fact, Homeboy here actually showcases how the cinematography is less dynamic and interesting than the 2002 version.
How much you get the earth?
You hear me?
To the ends of the earth! I'll hunt you to the ends of the earth.
You hear me?
To the ends of the earth!
It's like they didn't even try. Dude, tons of core features of the game from 2002-2003 were not re-implemented. Rise Ladder's gone. Play multiplayer, prepare to get ass blasted because there is no ranking system at all. 3. Art direction was butch. Ew. Gross. What is that? Sick. Original Warcraft 3 does look extremely dated, but everything is way more colorful and unique, recognizable. 4. Classic Warcraft 3 and even StarCraft 1 had a system implemented to prevent drops from matches. If your connection was interrupted or a little shaky at times, you get like a 45-second countdown timer. If your internet was good then, the match would continue. Reforged does not have this.
Being pulled early on, and all I was trying to go for a greedy Ancient of Poker, but if this is cancelled, what? Oh, damn. It was not a bad BM leaving of the game. This was a disconnect once again. I'm almost 100% sure. Yeah. But I never do this.
Oh, yes, enough matter. I'll need to blow it. Need you. Your bench. And looks like nothing drops.
If your internet connection isn't perfect, you will be dropped from matches instantly. This happens even in campaign missions, where you get an automatic mission failed screen. A delayed game is eventually good, but a rushed game is forever bad. Warcraft 3 Reforged represents Blizzard's complete lack of empathy or care for their older games, and the fans who still play them. They just pissed on their own legacy, and these problems barely scratch the surface. Now Blizzard is forced to take their sweet time fixing things that never needed to be fixed. Pursuit of money and who knows what else, Blizzard has lost their identity, being one of the core titans of the industry. Seeing them fall so far, fall lower than the likes of Bungie, is just sad, man. The franchises they used to be known and loved for are not what they once were. Where they used to be dedicated towards the fans, now they are dedicated to the shareholders. It's no longer about what do the fans want, but rather, what can we get away with? Blizzard's sins are numerous, attempting to disclose private information of their users to solve an issue that could have been fixed by better moderation. Introducing microtransactions that undercut the core design and fun factor of a game people waited 12 years for. Allowing a rival company to steal the commercial rights to one of the most popular games of all time. Changing WoW into something fans didn't want. Failing to provide fans with the experience they had been begging for until an independent group rose up to challenge Blizzard. Completely misreading their audience by building up hype at their convention. For a game their fan base has never expressed interest in. Countless tone-deaf, out-of-touch responses to valid criticism. Tossing out 800 employees like yesterday's trash during their most financially successful year. Punishing people who dare speak on important political and social issues. Taking a stand for China. Letting internal strife and protests run rampant within the company. Tarnishing their legacy. The careless disregard for the state of Warcraft 3 Reforged. These are just monumental blunders, the ones that have affected the most. If you want to see current sentiment towards Blizzard, go to their YouTube channel, where the like-dislike ratio is up in the air, and most videos have comments dislike. Take into consideration that Blizzard said they were going dark on Overwatch 2 information, couple that with the Diablo 4 reveal, and it just seems like a desperate attempt to shift players' focus from what a shithead company they've been to, oh, look at these new titles. That's just my theory. Blizzard has proven time and time again where their morals lie, and it's not with the consumers. So now do you see I am Blizzard? I do, but watch. What happens now? Will Blizzard ever redeem themselves? Will I ever be title? Not just the negatives. Oh yeah. But if I were Hey. There we go.
Wait, the fuck is this? What?
Loot boxes. You know them? You probably hate them. But at the beginning, they appear to be just another way to reward players for their in-game accomplishments. Yet underneath the hood, something far more sinister. Not too long ago, it seemed like every franchise had these damn things in them. While some studios maintained integrity like Nintendo and found different means of revenue, others fell victim to the oldest sin of man. It didn't matter if it was a AAA studio or an indie developer, it didn't matter if a title was at release, a buggy disaster, or in early access. Developers did not care if loot boxes compromised their years of blood, sweat, and hard work, or if they contradicted and dismantled what fans loved about its theories. And in some cases, having a functional in-game store is more important than a functional product. Loot boxes never discriminated against any genre: RPG, first-person shooter, multiplayer, fighting, racing, even single-player games. Not a single-player. Loot boxes were everywhere. It was an epidemic. And with that type of cash flow, it looked like the loot box wars would continue for generations. While it seemed impossible that anything could be more controversial in the realm of gaming than Jack Thompson, the Gamergate, or the Xbox One's original reveal, or even the Ouya, Fallout 76, loot boxes quickly became the most despised thing by all gamers. For the last 8 or so years, RNG loot crates became an unstoppable virus, infecting the entire industry. And yet, despite every horrible thing that's happened in the year 2020, a new age approaches. One with a vaccine.
So I tell them this one, because when the
there's surprise mechanics.
Fuck you too!
An age where loot boxes will not feel so good, Mr. Stark, and be cast away into economic textbooks where they will remain forever. But, get here, and more importantly, what caused the rise and fall of the loot box.
This game is a online casino designed to get money. It's a trap.
Thanks, man. Available. What's that? Check it out.
Fuck. Davis, Gregory.
Legends say that on a dark, stormy night, a young Australian man set foot within a forgotten cemetery in London on a faded grave bore the name Karl Marx, then fell to his knees and shouted towards the sky. Then the ghost of Karl Marx arose from his castle and told the young Australian of a plan to destroy capitalism. And so, Wilson returned to his laboratory, where he plotted and schemed for days, weeks, months, and years, until one day, one fateful encrypted UK headquarters barged into the shareholders' top-secret meeting and laid the blueprints for his terrible plan before their very eyes. It was on that fateful day that the loot box was confirmed. Well, it was probably a bit less dramatic than that. To be real, I've leaned on Andrew Wilson in the past, but truly, he has the biggest part to play in all of this. To understand the rise and fall of the loot box, you have to understand the evolution of video game monetization. So open your textbooks to page 69, yeah, very funny, and I'll educate you. Our first lesson, please examine the graph on the screen. We'll see how the price of video games has changed since 1977, with adjustments for inflation, from the Atari 2600 to the NES, Genesis, Super Nintendo, all the way through to modern day. Now, do you notice something? The retail price for a standard video game has stayed the same for the last 30 years. Only the same can be said about college tuition. Can you think of any other business that hasn't changed the cost of their product in 30 years? I only know of one, Costco hot dog. As video games became more ambitious and expensive to produce, publishers, shareholders, and developers needed to find other ways to earn back their investment and turn a profit, or so we are led to believe. At the turn of the millennium, downloadable content, map packs, and expansions became popular. Which is perfect because these things were much faster and easier to develop than a brand new game. Better yet, they added on to already great titles. Yes, I would love 9 new maps for Halo 2. Thank you so much. Going into the 360, PS3, and Wii generation, most AAA titles had some kind of DLC, big or small. Xbox had avatar outfits, gamer picks, wallpapers. We also saw the rise of collectors or special editions. Subscription models emerged with World of Warcraft and EverQuest. Season passes started popping up everywhere. Annual releases of very similar titles kept budgets down. But why am I taking you on this history lesson? Because companies are constantly trying to find the most effective way to monetize their games without directly raising the price. Said directly. DLC and map packs used to be common until fans got tired of the fractured player base. So many companies went the free DLC route. Passes were common until, once again, fans got tired of paying up front for content later. Many trends have come and gone, and often what once used to work and make shitloads of money no longer does. Now, this is just my theory, but you can really see the effect of the $60 price tag on the game industry in recent years. The reason we see so many titles launch in unplayable, disastrous, embarrassing ways is because the companies have to cut corners. There's no way we can get all this work done. Maybe we should delay it? Nope, just push it out and worry about it later. Of course, this could also just be laziness or greed, but when looking at all these things as a whole, it's no surprise why microtransactions emerged.
Buy something.
I've just laid out is the trail of different monetization schemes and practices. A trail that has final stops on our journey. What I've noticed is a lot of these quote-unquote outdated sales tactics were largely successful because of consumer ignorance. But once everyone began to realize just how annoying and repetitive this shit was getting, that's when we all stood together, held hands, had a beer, and said, "You'll stop doing this. No more of that." That's when we start to see change. Meanwhile, greedy capitalist thieves, we're hard at work. We need to make more money, guys. What if we create a system where players can make smaller purchases but without any limit on how many? I'll do you one better, fuss. What if we tie those purchases to the actual gameplay experience? You think your tickets? Let's reward players paying real money with blatant advantages over those cheap bastards who won't give us money. I've got you beat, Chad. Let's do all that, but in a slot. Holy fuck! God damn, that's greedy, and I love it. The result? 2 types of terrible diseases. Microtransactions, which could be in exchange for currency, your soul, yada yada yada, and loot boxes. Funny to think that the first microtransaction that really pissed people off was Horse Armor in Oblivion. But in hindsight, Horse Armor was the least offensive of all. I think loot boxes and microtransactions originated from mobile gaming, but this is raw. While we had seen similar things in games like Maple Story, the origin of the biggest outbreak other than FIFA. Sports games since 2008, before, and even now have been the most repetitive genre in all of gaming, but FIFA 2009 changed everything. It was the first pay-to-win console video game ever created. Unfortunately, it wouldn't be the last. FIFA's Ultimate Team mode was a dream come true for shareholders. The world's most popular sport, with the best and most recognizable players from around the globe. Have card packs, assemble the Ultimate Team, and pay money to do it. So naturally, the more packs you opened, the better chance you had to get the best player. Andrew Wilson was the executive producer of FIFA 09. He was the man who authorized monetization of FIFA's Ultimate Team. It wouldn't stop at FIFA. It would spread to 2K Basketball and Madden. From that point on, EA felt a change in the winds. I think I finished. And their profits skyrocketed over the next several years. They went from a company value of $5 billion in 2008 to $34 billion in 2018. Another familiar name, Activision Blizzard, followed suit, going from a value of $20 billion in 2008 to $61 billion in 2018. Ultimate Team was so profitable that in 2019 it made up 28% of EA's total revenue. This massive increase was unheard of. Other companies saw the financial success of FIFA's Ultimate Team. Jealous and conniving, they sat there and thought, how can we bring this to our club? They scrambled to replicate it, and that's when the virus spread like wildfire. Halo? Infected. Call of Duty? Infected. Rainbow Six? Infected. Infected. Shadow of War. Battlefront. Halo Wars 2. Advanced Warfare. Black Ops 3. Infinite War. COD World War 2. Black Ops 4. Fortnite, Destiny 2, Mass Effect 3, Forza Motorsport 7, Gears of War 5, Need for Speed, Overwatch, Battlefield 1, Elder Scrolls Online, The Division 2, PUBG, CSGO, Lawbreakers, EVE Online, Black Squad, Apex Legends, Hearthstone, Heroes of the Storm, Dota 2, Critical Ops, NBA 2K, Team Fortress 2, Street Fighter 5, Paladins, Fable Fortune, Assassin's Creed Origins, Bones, Resident Evil 3, Mass Effect, Andromeda, Battlefield, Hardline, Smite, Guild Wars 2, League of Legends. Just a couple examples.
I'll tell you the problem with magic power. It doesn't require any discipline for others. And you try to accept. Learn the knowledge for yourselves, so you don't take any responsibility. So on the shoulders of Jesus to accomplish something as fast as where you knew you had. You and packaged it and slapped on a plastic lunchbox, and now it's well. never done before. Yeah, but your scientists were so preoccupied with whether or not they could that they used to think of it.
Despite infecting so many different types of video games, the exact same symptoms occurred with loot box fever. A slot machine that mostly churns out a bunch of useless crap, and rarely something good. Presented in the exact same copy-pasted layout with color-coded items to signal rarity, the act of opening a crate was scientifically engineered to release as much dopamine in the brain as possible with cheerful sound effects, confetti, and it made you confident that you were spending your money on something that made you happy. For whatever reason, nobody in the government seemed to recognize the obvious danger of these loot box systems, how they exploited children, how there was no limit set up, no age verification system. The government didn't realize how prevalent loot boxes were becoming, or how much money they were making. I mean, you'd think the US government would tax the bejesus out of this. But no, it might be illegal to bring kids into a casino. There was no law against bringing the casino to them. Because it was so profitable, easy to create, and completely unregulated, there was no limit to how terrible loot box systems could be abused. None of these games had a screen that popped up and said, hey buddy, we noticed you spent $5,000 on Overwatch skins in the last 2 days. We're going to prevent you from making any more terrible decisions.
Value means more with 10 gigabit bytes for $3. So grab yours at packets today. Carol, oh, Musky.
I got one of those too.
I got one too. You should get sushi, Cat.
Carol, with eBay, you get the item you ordered or you get your money back.
Your one's a winner with eBay's money back guarantee.
What are all loot boxes based on? What is at the core? RNG, a random number generator. Gotcha system. RNG decides the outcome of a slot machine, a dice roll, many other things. It's not a new concept to seasoned nerds and gambling addicts. Mario Party is filled with randomness and chance that can heavily affect the outcome of a match. World of Warcraft had rare item drops from enemies that sometimes had to grind hours to beat. And I remember the thrill of opening a new pack of Yu-Gi-Oh cards and seeing a secret rare Dinzo in front of my face. That was the first boner I ever got. There's something innately exciting about taking a risk, not knowing what you're going to get. It's that same thrill that loot boxes tapped into. Without any risk on the part of the developer, humans are foolishly hopeful, no matter how mathematically insane the odds might be. Am I an anime villain yet? That's why so many people buy lottery tickets and gamble on CSGO skins. Because even though you are more likely to be struck by lightning than win the lottery, the chance is there and that's all that matters.
There's a chance.
Now, why are loot boxes problematic? Well, I'm going to say something incredibly shocking and brave. Loot boxes are not a problem for video games. Wait for it. Monetizing them is. A virtual version of a card game, Legacy of the Duelist, has random packs, no money involved. Get them all purely through gameplay. Vermintide 2 is the same deal, but by playing on higher difficulties, grabbing items that make the levels more challenging, the player can actually upgrade the loot boxes they get, not monetize. These progression systems actually prove that loot boxes can work when done right. The problem is, the second you monetize them, you open the door to every corrupt anti-consumer practice there is. Artificial grinds, limited resources, restricting players' ability to customize, a barrage of useless crap made specifically to act as filler so players don't unlock everything too quickly. Any company who wants to make money off of loot boxes is going to do everything in their power to incentivize the purchase.
Wait, won't rec packs with special weapons break the exquisitely refined balance of arena multiplayer?
Secure your noise hole, soldier! Grown-ups are talking.
Damn it.
Infinite Warfare offering objectively better weapons. Halo 5 and Halo Wars 2 created entire game modes. Full is in, selling packs. They paywalled and freaking Halo game. PUBG was an embarrassment on the Xbox One, yet its store was still fully functional. Forza locking away cars, and putting a little tag that says "Buy Me" next to them. Illegal sales and false advertising in Fallout 76. Oh yeah, loot boxes could make shitloads of cash, always at the cost of the integrity of the game. You had to sacrifice your sense of pride and accomplishment. If DICE and EA had no desire to sell loot boxes, if they just thought that was the best system for Battlefront 2, they wouldn't have made the grind to unlock heroes and villains so tedious in the first place. This brings up a key difference between loot boxes that affect gameplay and ones that don't. While Overwatch's system is tied exclusively to loot crates, at the very least it's all cosmetic and doesn't give any player an objective advantage. It's kind of stupid and boring that this is the only method of rewards they could come up with, but far less devious than pay to win. The problem with loot boxes is not only that the system was so common and repetitive, but it replaced what could have been a better system for delivering rewards. Loot boxes are problematic in the same way scratch tickets are. The company that controls the odds will never create odds that would result in them losing money. They make the rules, so they win. But even worse, loot boxes offer goods that are self-contained within the digital world, meaning you can't trade or resell them like Magic the Gathering cards. There's a lot of people who buy card packs in bulk and are able to resell the contents and make a profit or at least some money back. But when it's a closed economy that the developers have full control over, whatever you get from a loot box outside of the game, it's worthless. The exception, of course, being Diablo 3's marketplace, which makes me puke, and CSGO skin betting, which makes me eat my own food. The difference between a casino and a loot box is the casino might pay you back $20 after you've spent $100. A loot box doesn't pay you anything, no matter how lucky you are. And another thing, a game like poker or blackjack requires actual skill, knowledge, and input from the person gambling money. If you're still not getting what I'm saying, imagine you have the trophy slot machine from Melee. Now just think if you had to pay to actually use the slot machine. It'd be disgusting, wouldn't it? Unacceptable! Imagine if Black Ops wager matches involved real money. I just want to illustrate how many problems can arise when you monetize a specific aspect of a game. Bottom line, objectively speaking, loot boxes are a form of gambling, and they were unregulated. But gambling itself is something that can be fun and rewarding. It's simply impossible to maintain a game's integrity if you monetize randomness and chance. So let's recap. Loot boxes were the replacement for paid DLC and map packs. They became an insanely successful practice in a short amount of time, but with huge underlying ethical problems that most people didn't care about. For a while, anytime a new game was announced, my first thought was, please don't have loot boxes, son of a bitch. I'd sigh and think, is this what my favorite industry is going to look like forever? But then one day, Doom Guy, Master Chief, Gordon Freeman, The Arbiter, Mario, Kaiba, and Ash Ketchum banded together and fought back, and the Flood suffered their first defeat. A single straw would break the camel's back.
I have had enough of you!
The Battlefront 2 loot box controversy opened the floodgates and released the Kraken. And I can't help but remember a story in my life that perfectly reflects it. I was in high school. Somebody in my group of friends found a set of keys that opened every door to the school. I'm not proud of this, but we used to go into the concession stand and steal candy. The school never noticed, and we did this for a couple of months, until one day, somebody, too carried away, decided to take the money out of there. Again, pretty shitty thing to do. I'm not proud of it. Don't do it. You aren't stupid. After the money was stolen, they locked everything down. Changed the locks. Nobody could get in. It wasn't until we pushed the envelope so far that it all came crashing down, just like loot boxes. In this analogy, EA was the person who took the money. In the last couple years, the loot box epidemic has been quarantined and vaccinated with haste. Not completely, but no company wants to suffer the shitstorm EA did. Now, if you don't believe loot boxes have fallen, that's fine. You have to admit they're in the process of falling. Media reporting and massive amounts of complaints, the legal world has responded. Firstly, a member of the Hawaii House of Representatives blasted EA and BF2 publicly. The Federal Trade Commission hosted a workshop to discuss consumer awareness and educate the community about the dangers of loot boxes. Legislation in several countries was introduced, and manipulative design features made it illegal to sell loot boxes to minors. A Dutch court recently fined EA $10 million. And while the audience for sports games doesn't seem to care at all about loot boxes, even FIFA has been under fire lately. It's crazy how deep the rabbit hole goes, and I'm truly proud of it all. In the face of overwhelming negativity, EA, Activision, and other companies gave their best effort to justify loot boxes as totally cool.
Because we don't call them loot boxes. I think that was
What about making so they don't pay people?
So what we look at it as surprise mechanics.
Their attempts only made the ship sink faster as other companies started to abandon ship. Rocket League removes loot boxes. Destiny 2 doesn't let you pay real money for engrams anymore. Forza 7 gets rid of them. Fortnite eliminates the randomness by letting you see what's in the crates. Modern Warfare was rumored to have loot boxes at launch, but didn't. The entire market in microtransactions and Shadow of War is completely ripped out. PUBG gets rid of random locked loot boxes. 8A2 revises their system to make sure the studio is, quote, in compliance with the relevant laws. Gears 5, Heroes of the Storm, Warframe, Battlefront 2, and so many others either removed loot boxes or made drastic changes to the current system. This is a pattern. In the last year or so, loot boxes have become a liability. It's not a good look to wear. The winds are changing. Big corporations can't hide behind vague or non-existent laws any longer. Consumers are ignorant no more. You might think it's purely because of benign reasons that publishers and developers turned away from loot boxes, but I think the more obvious motive is they found something better: the Battle Pass. Yes, the new monetization scheme Fortnite made popular. While not a perfect system, I believe it's far better than what we had before. The rise of loot boxes felt like an eternity, a dark chapter of gaming with no end in sight. We sat by and watched franchise after franchise succumb to this horrible parasite. While it's easy to point the finger at EA and Andrew Wilson for making the pay-to-win model so mainstream, the blame lies with everyone for how out of hand this got. All the companies that took advantage of a corrupt system, lawmakers who didn't regulate it for years, and the community who was manipulated into complacency. But hopefully this is all in the past, as I firmly believe the game industry is headed for a bright and noble future. X-Men merchandise is now available at madebystarstuff.com. Go shiggity check it out, mate. It's really cool.
We've built great communities and regions. And to have support to keep them great for advance and to come to us, that's big too.
I've been playing video games ever since I was 3 years old, when my parents substituted a Game Boy Color and Pokemon Blue in place of a babysitter. I grew up, there was so much to love about gaming. I got to play and experience countless amazing titles, witness the industry in the fall. Playing something like Oblivion or Bioshock, Halo 3, I would just kind of sit there and remember this. However, in the last 9 or so years, it feels like in many ways, the quality of video games, and especially AAA titles, has declined. The industry is always creating something new. Epic. Gaming as a medium has evolved very quickly in the 35 or so years it's been around, and while there are so many great aspects I love about this hobby, just consider this a more pessimistic take on the state of gaming. But what is it that has caused the decline of gaming? No, it's not these old flash drive games that we did inspire the name. It's the same thing that ruins so much of this beautiful, insatiable greed.
Then one quick trip sound.
in the Star Wars Battlefront 2.
To clarify, these are my opinions, based on the facts that I've researched and observed. If I get something wrong, please feel free to let me know. Sure you all will. Every negative thing that's happened to video games, you could argue an equally positive benefit has occurred, and that's a fair point. Greed is the driving force of this life. It gets tricky. Greed, in this case, takes off. No, it's not an overweight Italian man with a ridiculous mustache. It's something both subtle and straightforward. Wasting more time on a pleasant impulse. Right into this. Achieving the decline within our heads. It's challenging and overwhelming to tackle the core issues that plague a billion-dollar industry. So many different companies, developers, publishers, programmers spread all over the world. Is it possible to categorize and identify this decline? All we need to do is follow the money. If we just list some things you probably noticed and we'll elaborate on them down the line. 1. Increase in buggy games. Budget releases often have a botched launch and are forced to rely on updates to fix their issues. Number 2. Overabundance of remakes, remasters, and sequels. Number 3. Corporatization of games. Conduct of major companies, publishers, and developers. And of course, number 4. Obvious influx of RNG loot boxes being forced into every genre of game, and increasingly aggressive monetization schemes. It could be that our own minds play a factor in this as well. Possibly we see the game industry as being worse because we had it so good in the past. Is all the disappointment we have caused simply by us growing older or important? It's entirely possible the negativity we associate with modern gaming is outweighing the more positive innovations that have been made. Games look better, the stories more epic, characters are represented so realistic, animation vastly improved. My point is try not to become too overwhelmed with nostalgia for the glory days. Remember that your perception plays a huge part. Do and don't you have a problem with it? It's for you to figure out. Now that we've got a solid base for this topic, let's dive deep into the declining gaming. Places. Especially with oneself or one's merit, advantages of the situation, without awareness of some potential danger or defect, self-satisfied. Places these problems with innovation is valid. Known for their unconventional methods design and their repertoire of critically acclaimed releases. So many instant classics that to this day are viewed as some of the greatest games of all time. What about since then?
Looks like they're gonna change the plan.
Valve has not made a new game since World War II, 8 years ago. And the last time they even launched a new IP was Left 4 Dead, 7 years ago. So let's take a quick look at the games they've launched since then. CSGO, a remake of Counter-Strike Source, a remake of the original Counter-Strike. Dota 2, a remake of the Dota mod from Warcraft 3. Counter-Strike Online 2, Koreans only. Counter-Strike Next on Zombies, free-to-play zombie shooter, no thanks. Left 4 Dead Survivors, Japanese only. The Lab, a series of 8 VR minigames that was more or less just an experiment. Underlords, a mobile version of Dota Auto Chess. Do I need to elaborate? This is the same company that made Half-Life 2. Can you tell this content with developing these remarkable titles? Really sum up the disappointment gamers have had with this company in the Artifact review. Everyone was so hyped to see what Valve was working on. It had been so many years since they came out with a new kick-ass game. When they revealed it, everyone lost all interest. Two-card game. Now the question is, why did Valve stop making actual games? What happened to their ambition? Well, as of March 20th, it makes $18 million per month off Dota 2 alone. Valve is also, by ratio, one of the most profitable companies with the fewest employees in America, earning roughly $300,000 per employee. Made 30% of every sale off Steam. They're just rolling in the moolah. Chimichangas. gold bar. You're making tons of money selling the same thing for 7 years and you're a businessman. Well, why would you stop? Why would you take the risk and time to develop and sell a brand new product when you can simply maintain your current products? Watch.
Sometimes people try to give up thinking. Every day I wake up knowing that the more people I try to save, the more loneliness I need. How you do it. That's what matters.
Get out of here.
Those are the really cool with all the best spider people in it?
Use the new guy. This is funny. This is the funny.
Hold it. Good idea. The spiders.
Never give up.
Don't even get me started on Doctor Strange and the little nerd got nerd 1999. Come on, how old is this man kid? He had a terrible confusion. In a file. And I have
I'll take it.
these spiders. You have a choice. First, every world.
I can't believe it.
Most of us would.
Then it makes it off. What is fuck?
Considered by many. In name, franchise, and the first person's genre. The with a confusing plot and lackluster main villain. On its release, nearly every aspect was heavily criticized. Online multiplayer evaporated in less than a minute. Forge was a shell of its former glory. Knobs was considered a poor man's version of Firefight. The overall design of the game seemed to be inspired by nothing more than a blatant attempt to steal an audience from its biggest competitor. Halo 5's campaign being many gamers, myself included, had gone back to this alleged black sheep of the Halo game to see if it was as good or bad as they remembered. As is the tragic case with many pieces of art, whether they be novels, movies, video games, or TV shows, occasionally they aren't appreciated in their own time. The contemporary reaction to anything is very relatable to people like you and me when we're in that moment. But I don't think anyone in 10 years is going to be bringing up Ride to Hell Retribution or Cool Cat Saves the Kids as underappreciated pieces of art that were ahead of their time. It's important to note that the modern reaction isn't something that always stays relevant. People thought that speaking English in Halo 2 was a stupid decision. Matter of fact, some motherfuckers out there thought Halo 2 even had a bad story. I mean, what? My point is, let's not let the modern reaction to Halo 4 cloud our judgment on the overall quality of its story and campaign. Let's look at it with a fresh methane tank, a pair of grunt goggles, and an honest critical look. But there's some things we gotta clear up first. Keep in mind, Halo 4 is a sequel to Halo 3. It uses the story of the original trilogy. This will be important to remember for this review.
Have you found us? Go on a magical adventure in the Stan original film, The Portable Door, starring Christoph Waltz.
Horribly fucking stupid.
We got you somewhere after. Sophia, you're crying to the subs, pally. Guess who's waking up over here? Time to cash out. Cons like Fallout 4. But I ain't a fake. Okay? Clicked on your last video, kid. Or you got twisted up in a little preview. The what you're feeling, it must seem like an 18 terrible and a bad clickbait. This. Vegas was awesome from the start. Fallout series is easily one of the most recognized and beloved in all of gaming. With its nihilistic tone, diverse characters and factions, all with deep history and lore, Fallout defines the word nuclear. I mean, just look at how cute Bot Boy is. Fallout's also unique because it's really funny and cheerful at times.
Try not to smile so wide, baby. You might break your mouth.
You know, because post-apocalyptic stories aren't usually happy.
Kills don't.
But in Fallout, you got this really dark sense of humor.
Stop! What the fuck are you doing? My brother died at the Battle of Hoover Dam. You're desecrating a war memorial.
You're a little bitch and your brother was too.
Oh, now it's on!
Oh my god.
And I'm the strict baby. There are people able to put thousands of hours into this single player game. How is the combat customization and RPG mechanics? Why is the story and characters so captivating? New Vegas a world worth diving into? Then pick a snazzy looking man
You shoot me in the head.
Let's roll the Mojave Wasteland, grab our Pit Boy,
Oh,
and our
fuck,
last
it's a good
delivery, and straight into this.
Caught off guard, left for dead. Love keeps turning as the light begins to go.
With the first two Fallouts releasing in back-to-back years, it would take another 10 and complete buyout IP from Bethesda to turn Fallout into one today. Which, oh shit. Go back. How do I turn this thing off? Most people under the franchise in 3 considered one of the ghosts, but for some hardcore fans, Fallout 3 is missing something that 1 had.
Yeah, what a risk.
Regardless, it's difficult for any developer to snatch a series away from its creators and still keep the same feeling and identity. Often we end up with something that feels like a knockoff. Other times, the world is tortured with the release of something like, believe it or not, Fallout already has a cheap knockoff. It's called 76. Honestly, Bethesda deserves a lot of credit for taking the series into 3D. If you don't like 3, just remember we wouldn't have Vegas without it. There was room for improvement. While Bethesda was busy developing the only good game they've released for the next 10 years, in 2008, they reached out to Obsidian. Offer.
So, you want us to make a sequel to Fallout 3, Tommy Boy? That's right, but here's the catch, baby. Got 18 months, dig? 18 months? Are you mad? Better get an 85 on Metacritic or else you won't be getting a bonus kit. Wait a minute, are you? Bitch, don't you know how long this takes?
You want to make sure when looking at the cast of the game that we're trying to read people like Fallout 3, a lot of people like Fallout 3, so the experience should feel familiar to them.
Obsidian didn't have time to reinvent the wheel. What we ended up with was more like a spin-off, expansion, since it looks, feels, and plays almost identical on a technical level. Bethesda could have contracted a studio better for the job. Incidentally, Obsidian was made up of many who worked on the originals. Clearly, this was a team that understood Fallout's identity, something that Bethesda is really struggling with nowadays. City also made 19 Coma 2, which, if you're following the pattern here, is also achieving a critical campaign. Reason it's getting less than 2 years to develop. Both New Vegas and KOTOR 2 were extremely ambitious. Had fantastic writing, large part due to Chris Avalon. Seriously, this film deserves way more recognition. Make anything halfway decent in the game industry typically takes 2-3 years. And somehow Obsidian just pulled it together on New Vegas just as they did before. So without even getting a glance at this fantastic mustache, New Vegas is already an accomplishment simply because it exists. Fallout New Vegas has been the most requested review on this channel for the last 2 years, large in part due to the efforts of the NCR Trooper.
Patrolling the Mojave Basin most makes you wish for the mountains to wine this Fallout. Vegas sold some.
Yes, I see.
Patrolling the Mojave Basin makes you wish for the Mojave Basin.
I order you to be quiet.
Patrolling the Mojave Basin.
Will you shut up?
Only after I put 50 hours into New Vegas, stood atop Hoover Dam waving the flag of a two-headed bear, did I finally understand why so many people love this game. New Vegas wastes no time in pulling you in, as the soothing voice of Frank Sinatra massages your ears. Some troopers waving flags on the dazzling streets. Robots go by, and then...
Priority 1.
See a different group of troopers head into the city. Truck heads out further to a remote location. You hear the all-too-classic phrase. Punk Woman gives us a juicy backstory. Atomic war, alt, and everyone who emerged to form tribes in the wasteland. Catch a glimpse of the two most important locations, Hoover Dam and a city untouched by nuclear fallout. Narration might lead most everyone to believe who the good guys and bad guys are, but New Vegas plays with a stacked deck. This is one of its many tricks. More importantly, the opening sparks no shortage of questions and sets the player on a journey for answers. Who was this man and his accomplices? Told you that mohawk looked good. Why did he want his head? Where can I get that suit? What were we delivering and to who? Find out this time on Fallout Mall. Vegas gives you just the tastiest slice of everything it has to offer over the next 40 hours in roughly 5 minutes. So having been shot in the head and left for dead in an unmarked grave, the courier, cheap death. Man, my head. I had a dream I stopped playing video games for a day.
Whoa, easy there. Not cold a couple of days.
My name? Acting Mailman.
What's your name?
You didn't just take a bullet out of my head, I'd kick your ass, Doc.
There's a lot of angles to this cake. Complexities aplenty.
Now it's time for one of the best character creators in gaming. And no, it's not because of the visuals. Music is oddly soothing and unsettling at the same time. Really powerful piece, and my knowledge is the only time you hear it. Dr. Mustache wants to know who you main in League of Legends, what sort of playstyle you prefer. He does this by asking your opinions on some fine art. Well, that's definitely 2 bears like 5 minutes. This is such a great way to introduce decision making to the player. The world of New Vegas is defined by the vast stretches of the Mojave Wasteland. What really drives the player's experience in that wasteland is how they build their character. Vegas' greatest strength, choice. Immediately, I could tell there were tons of deep mechanics, so much so that it's very overwhelming in the beginning. Maybe my parents didn't put enough points into my intelligence, but starting a character is pretty daunting. What's this? How does bats work? What does crippling limbs do? How in Easy Pete's name do I hack terminals? No, seriously, what am I supposed to do? Why does my gun only fire when it feels like it? If you're new to Fallout and trying to understand how everything works right from the start, you just play it. Fake it till you make it. You'll get the hang of things. Unless you're stupid like me and didn't know how to repeat different ammo types until 35 hours in. Or did I have using blueprints to do anything besides recycle ammo? That's when I had a revelation. Got me thinking, how many ways I wasn't using the sandbox and tools around me? What quests did I miss? Which areas did I never visit? What else is this game hiding from me? It's these very questions that have no doubt led me to put thousands of hours into a single-player game, uncovering every nook and cranny possible. A lot of RPGs fall in the pit of focusing too much on the numbers, Mason. How high is your light level, Guardian? Nobody cares about who don't like the light. Most first-person shooters don't have RPG mechanics, and those that do are often pretty shallow about it. Vegas caters to fans of RPGs and shooters because you can play the numbers game if you really want to whoop ass. You can still survive the wasteland if you don't. What Vegas special, pun intended, is just how many ways you can play it. This is where all the different skills and special stats come in. These will do things like get you better prices at shops, repair weapons easier, or do you want to blow shit up and send people's limbs flying across the desert? Want to be a skilled marksman who snipes from a distance? You can do that. But what about the perk, baby? Let's do a little comparison. This is how many perks were in the original Fallout. There's 2. This is 3. And this is how many perks are in New Vegas. Some perks will give unique dialogue options. Because something at one. Give you extra allow you to tame animals. A lot of perks are going to be based on your playstyle. Let's say you want to sell a bunch of stuff but are tired of managing your inventory. Well, there's a perk that lets you fast travel while you're over encumbered. So just head to Good Springs, drop all that good shit off, bing bang boom, you're on your way. This is how perks are supposed to be in role-playing games. Not just a number boost, but you should be unlocking a part of the game that you couldn't previously use. Fallout 3, you can become a godlike being and excel in absolutely every category. Vegas forces you to create a more specific playstyle. You know, in other games where you can convince people to jump off a cliff or kill their best friend, you know, some fun stuff. But even in one of my all-time favorites, whether or not you convince people to do good or bad things is determined by a single stat. So if you put points into that, you can breeze through every conversation. Vegas is different. It's a genius. Although most of those conversations, sometimes you need to be an expert in another area. Like if you don't know squat about explosives, Easy Pete won't help you out. And then what are you gonna do? Too late. Pull yourself up. Pull your neighbors. Pull the whole town. At some point or another, every skill has an influence on dialogue, some more than others, but you won't be able to win them all.
There's more access to springs in this only. Please identify. I got yours. Thank you, sir. Have a nice day.
You literally cannot experience everything New Vegas has to offer in a single playthrough. You put all your points in a lockpicking, you can open everything, but you can't convince this kid to buy drugs from you. And that's a real tragedy.
Redcliffe never touches kids.
Vegas is based on trade-off. Trades give you positive and negative bonuses right from the start. These are going to severely affect your playstyle. Best of all, if you pick Wild Wasteland, you get to fight aliens and see all sorts of crazy stuff. Often in RPGs, at some point your character becomes so overpowered, it takes all the decision-making out of leveling up. Because you're going to kick the game's ass whether or not it can be noticed underwater. Every time I leveled up in New Vegas, I took a solid 5 minutes to look over my options. Skills, perks, traits, stats, downloads, All these mechanics work together in harmony. That's why this game has such a satisfying progression and fair challenge. What's that? Oh yeah, guess we're still in the tutorial. Well, thanks for the pit boy, Doc. Hope I don't come back to kill you later. And now, my friends, let the great journey into the Mojave Wasteland begin. Patrolling the Mojave Wasteland almost makes you wish New Vegas would stop crashing. Normally I'd be a lot more critical of what in the goddamn do I really gotta talk about? It wasn't a stupid decision to make this game in 18 months. Whoever decided to stop patching New Vegas, you gave it a bad rap. And playing older titles, you gotta lower your standards. But if I have to install mods to make something playable, I'm sorry, but you lost far with me. New Vegas is far from a perfect game. That's what's so tragic. Let's say it was remastered and played on a new engine. Hey, just like that, it's in the conversation for top 20 video games of all time. Bethesda's legacy is so inescapable that even when they commission other people to make games for them, they're still riddled with bugs, and not just ants. Writing, combat, world design, music, everything else is perfect. But that's the thing, all my problems with New Vegas are on the technical level. It would have been nice to spruce up the animations, improve the visuals, make the AI better. But I imagine the jankiness, crashing, and lack of polish were all due to the rush deadline. So if you can bite your tongue when the game inevitably crashes, and you can look past the technical problems that you really should, what you'll find is an experience like none other. So your first goal is to track down the man who shot you and also find out who these two goons are. Answers lie in New Vegas. If you talk to folks around Good Springs, they'll tell you how to play the game. And this series of quests introduces you to every single mechanic, and it's brilliant. You get to barter with a merchant, talk to an explosives expert, repair a radio, there's a terminal you can hack, learn about karma and fame, there's some geckos and manaces to kill. The starting area of Good Springs offers something useful for every single skill, and that informs the player. Hey, this is what you can do with this talent in the future. But shucks, we need some conflict. Turns out there's a fierce rivalry between the local powder gangers and the citizens of Good Springs, which is an identical setup to the final quest. Given two options. If you defend the town, you need to visit each person and rally them together. Convincing them to fight requires a different skill. That's just good game design. The tutorial ensures that no matter how any person creates their character, they'll be useful in some way. The other choice is to side with the powder gangers and kill everyone. You're teaching how to shoot a rifle, Sonny. These are the type of gut-wrenching choices the player has to get used to making. But what New Vegas is, what the Mojave Wasteland really is. Straight up.
What do you think?
My mother is dead.
At this point, you'll likely head to Crib and follow the main quest, as that's the obvious direction you're given. Don't you want to find Big Dick Ben? Yes, I do, but the people of Crib need me to find a new sheriff. Restore order to this lawless land.
Tycoon is more true for death, and the Legion obeys.
But of course, an ambush. Being destroyed mission. What's this? Awesome. Only between NCR and the Great Cones? Oh, soldier, why shall I negotiate with their chieftain?
What the hell?
Oh, it's one of the guys.
That courier been wasted back to goods.
You're supposed to be dead!
I know. Well, wait a minute. What if I wanted to go back? All the way back? Is it possible to head directly to the strip? right from the start? Obsidian discovered the secret to eternal replayability. Most of the actions and quest lines in New Vegas can be accessed at any point. There's never a moment where you get handed a quest and some nutsack is like, "Excuse me, sir, I won't shoot. That's level 13. None of that. This gives the player an enormous amount of control over the events of the game and what really is coming out. But you know that you can skip right to the second edge. And if you do so, much less obvious and more dangerous. That ensures only experienced gamers will know how to get there right away. They complete the entire subplot before even being asked to. Alright, listen, Trooper. If we're gonna defeat Caesar's mage, I killed him already. Yeah, he said, "Mark my words, you piece." And I killed him. Well, they have to recruit the boomers who are kind. A group of explosive experts who will kill anyone that gets near their base. There's Tycoon over there. Come on, what can I say? The boomers love me. For the Battle of Hoover Dam, you have to visit the Brotherhood of Steel and Boomers and Nellis. I just happened across these places. It's not just the order in which you do things that makes exploring the Mojave so dynamic. It's also the quest in itself.
The whole premise of Fallout is about giving the players at least 3 ways to solve each quest.
Then that
For instance, in the Brotherhood of Steel questline, you're told to get rid of an NCR trooper that's stalking you. By convincing him to leave or killing him.
Thanks for the information. May it save my life.
Next, you have to recover 3 lost holocapes in 3 separate locations and can do so in any order. Then you have a choice between showing the contents of those capes to Paladin Hardin or by giving them to McNamara. Hardin wants the Brotherhood to continue exploring the wasteland and realize the Brotherhood's true potential, and McNamara wants to keep everyone locked down and safe during this pandemic. Do you notice how every single quest in this game offers the player some kind of choice? You see how it gives you a sense of agency and control? Siding with the Powder Gangers in the fight for Good Springs isn't an obvious option, but even right from the start, New Vegas gives you options. This is what I call the tree branch quest selection. It has to be the most time-consuming type of quest in a game to write. But to take this style and get to literally every objective in the game is absolutely insane. Cyberpunk was developed over 5 years, and it only managed to do this in one single quest. Just to put things in perspective. Here's another example. When allying with the boomers, you need to gain fame with them, but you're not given a linear series of chores. Instead, Pearl says, hey, here's 10 things you can do, but you only gotta do 5. Like helping a dude find a girlfriend, raising an old bomber from the lake, talking to children, into the history of the boomers. And there's gotta be a boring quest in here somewhere. Go kill ants. There it is. God damn it, even this has layers. These ants are different from every other ant in the game in that they explode if you shoot them with energy weapons. But also, if you have enough repair skill, you can make a sonic emitter that'll kill them all for you. This is the New Vegas secret to eternal replayability. With every storyline consisting of so many different choices and outcomes, it would take hundreds of hours to see and do it all. No quest is ever as straightforward as it seems. There's one where you're hired as a guard in the Grass weapons store. You have to decide who to let in. If you let this guy in, suicide bomber. They're all dead. One of my favorite happens in Campus Fair, where you come across Dr. Pilger. Does anybody recover some data from Golden Fall? One place there is really cool. That sounds like a straightforward fetch quest.
I thought it was a fairly straightforward assignment.
I just said that. As soon as you walk out the door, his assistant stops you and says, one of the other scientists Hildren sent out there hasn't returned. If you go back to him and ask with enough speech, he'll tell you he sent at least 8 other people there.
I have no evidence that did it.
1,000 things could have happened between you.
Oh, none have returned? Gee, I wonder if anything weird is going on over at Vault 22. Using this knowledge, you can negotiate for more caps, and just by spending a little bit of extra time talking to people, you've not only learned more about the quest and the story and potential danger, you've gotten a better reward for doing it. You see that the plants have grown throughout the entire vault, creating these spore crawlers, other nasty plants. Terminals are scattered everywhere, detailing what happened, how this got out of control. You find the missing scientist and the data. He wants you to destroy it so that nobody else uses this to weaponize it. And now the motivations to kill her become clear. You can lie to Keely and not force a fight, take the data back to the builder and just forget about it. Or you can destroy the data and return to him empty-handed. Vegas so much more going on behind the scenes than it's willing to admit. But if the player is thorough, they can uncover it. It's the most authentic, choose-your-own-adventure story ever told in gaming. That said, yes, you can kill everyone, except children, of course. That would be fun. Most of the story is all about who you help and why. But being a selfish asshole and killing everyone is literally always an option, too. That's what's so cool. The game doesn't break if you kill Doc Mitchell, only your heart will. I love it. Vegas has incredible writing and characters, but what makes it dynamic is how the story adjusts to your actions. Nobody is so important that the game has to arbitrarily block you from killing them.
You triggered my trap card!
If you kill Kaisar or the president of the NCR, they still wage war against each other, just led by different people. It's possible to get an ending select where all the main characters narrate their deaths at the hands of the couriers. There is a contingency, though. Obviously, the player needs certain information, so oftentimes there's like notes or journals. You should just silence them before. What's awesome is how NPCs react to your actions throughout the game.
Bet he didn't see this coming. Officer, Legion's aggression will outlive. We're trying to take the dam as a tribute to his memory.
You know that Legion furry Volkins you meet in Nipton? Well, you're supposed to talk to him later on after you meet Mr. Howe. But if you kill him, then another Legion guy takes his place and mentions it.
Your crimes against the Legion, including the death of the fearless Wolf-Facing Kota, hereby forgiven.
Recruiting boom will often make NCR troopers say, wish I had a first recon guy looking after me. Once you get the platinum ship, you don't even have to talk to Mr. Howe. You can just straight up murder him. Killing him before anyone asks you to will give unique dialogue that you wouldn't get otherwise.
Now that that's out of the way, let's see. Mr. House, the concern is somewhat conveniently dealt with for us. Oh, that reminds me. You might be happy to know that your efforts have gone.
The world of
is.
What weapons you use, and how you build your character. It all matters. It makes New Vegas engaging from start to finish. Every playthrough is gonna be different. This is the ultimate sandbox game.
Keep getting fried cheeks.
Enjoy. Righteous. It's just a chore. Like any.
But for all its successes, New Vegas sure does take its sweet time getting to the good stuff.
The right stuff.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. I think the writing is spectacular, but sometimes I just want to shoot things. So often you'll run into a character, ask a simple question about a man in a checkered suit, and they'll be like, that guy? Let me tell you about my life story first. If you don't explore off the beaten path, you'll be begging for a group of legionnaires to ambush you. But when things do get rolling, the action's intense. Vegas was able to blend two polar opposite genres together in a way that I don't think any other game has. You got the fast-paced first-person shooter action, mixed with slow, tactical strategy for role-playing. slow things down by using fast. I swap into a turn-based game. While this mostly fast, combat is often interrupted by the same thing that plagues a lot of Bethesda games. Having a menu that does everything. Want to swap weapons? Pull out the Pip-Boy. Trying to take drugs, kid? Whip out the Pip-Boy. Need to heal? Pip-Boy. If this game ever got remastered, I'd love to have the option to quick select healing items, weapons, and drugs. Those quick select item spots are just so perfect. I don't know why games don't. Two games are only as fun as the tools you use and enemies you fight. Real quick, how many different weapons do you think there are in your game? Think of it. You don't know this. 178. It's awesome! Counting unique weapons and DLC.
Yeah, but those are all
Street wild. Felt like every 5
like
minutes I was
all the
finding
fucking
some
ones in book.
It's gotta be
Yeah.
challenging to make
Wait.
a hyper-realistic setting like the end of the world feel genuine. But they did that. Obsidian wanted to make the tech reflect the world around it. So you have modern firearms like M16s, 9mm pistols, stuff that people maybe brought out of the box that's considered old world. Then you got makeshift energy weapons, things that people probably made in the 200 years since the Atomic War. Blending futuristic, Western, and modern eras together so successfully is what makes Fallout, well, Fallout. Vegas never had any question if part of it was realistic or not. Great for the reputation, certain areas can be accessible, not without killing everyone. Depending on who you travel with, certain companions will straight up kill you. Just so you know, I've been reaching. They'll murder each and every one I see. Child. That's great, Boone. I'm gonna leave you here and go strike who the ties are. You can sneak into these areas by wearing the outfits of each faction. Not to mention every weapon is given a role, and in order to conquer what the game throws at you, you'll have to pack a variety of different weapons. Some weapons like the flare gun have unique properties that can scare off animals, others pierce armor better. There's one pistol that calls down a laser from the sky, a mysterious magnum that plays a jam every time you pull it out.
I love it.
Laser something nice to use, but it burns through
Color is multi-snap.
Some
Or
melee items like the thermic plants are good even if you don't dump points into the melee skill. Still lasts long. I watch everything from grenade launchers to snipers, revolvers, shotguns, plasma rifles, shoulder-mounted machine guns. It's a beautiful dance of death, and you are its good. But I got a question. What sort of enemies do you think games take place?
6 million a month.
Giant fire-breathing geckos? Two-headed cows? Radiated scorpions? Dinosaurs? Mojave, you're bound to run into some drugged-out creatures. And it's such a neat detail that most of the animals are reptiles because reptiles live in the desert. More importantly, New Vegas answers the question, what would happen to animals in evolution post-nuclear fallout? Rather than doing what Cyberpunk did and just cluster the same enemy type together in 1,000. It's careful not to throw any one type at you too often. So Mojave is constantly throwing different things at you. Some baddies might seem overpowered, but they all have weaknesses. This is where crippling limbs comes into play. Cazadors can close the gap in seconds, but crippling
Spent like 60 million on
limbs are unflappable. I can use stealth points. And perception is required. Now, there is somewhat of an exploit by using a stealth point and just sniping the toughest enemies in the game from far. But I guess in that case, you need to find these things before you can exploit such a strategy. While I love the game combat, the weapons, and the enemies, the AI is still pretty basic. I think New Vegas struggles to maintain a strong difficulty curve. It can be dangerous, easy to see.
Hey, wait!
Lumbering across the west.
So I literally everyone looking.
Resurrect the old soul of America.
And the closer these cameras.
Oh, fuck. Western and I game it's probably that crazy. But the last thing I'd imagine is that this combo would actually work. While the writers did a kick-ass job of molding all the factions together in a cohesive world, it's also in the level and world design that
We spent 55
They took the setting of Vegas and slapped closer nuclear skin over it, taking inspiration from real locations right down to the details.
I wanted to sort of immerse myself more in, especially the desert sort of style. I thought
Cool.
like
Kind of take a walk.
basically going all around Vegas.
I mean, they literally toured these areas to build the look and feel of the game. And I think that's why it stands out so much. It's authentic. They actually made a real Hoover Dam because of this game. That's just insane. Now, I gotta be honest, New Vegas is kind of an eyesore for 2010. I can't tell you that it looks much better than Oblivion. There's a lot of gray, dull colors, rust everywhere. It's a wasteland act, man. What do you expect? I don't know. Most outside areas look dry and yellow, while the inside of buildings is all gray. But when you see the Lucky 38 shining in the distance, it makes you feel like, maybe there's hope. The city of New Vegas is a shining beacon. While you're kicking around with cazadors or doing whatever, it's a constant reminder of your ultimate goal. And by keeping this landmark inside of the player from so far away, it makes New Vegas seem like a mystical place. It is one of the only locations that still holds a feeling of old world similarity. Because of the setting and different themed casinos, the strip feels like an amusement park. Escape from the dreary atmosphere outside. There's one quest where you can recruit people to perform in the Tops Casino, and before you do, this billboard doesn't have much text on it, but as you recruit people, you not only get the coolest magnet in the world, but also see the names of the people you brought in. This is one of the many ways the level design changes based on your actions. Vegas proves that you can make an immersive world without cutting-edge graphics and radiant AI. Wild West-style saloons, futuristic atomic bomb museums. There's a lot of cool stuff to see and do. Through clever use of landmarks, there's always something off in the distance. Might just make you want to see what that giant dinosaur is all about. And you go in and discover a quest, and that's what's so magical about this game. Vegas in particular, you can pick any direction you want. Eventually you'll find something interesting. Patience and people.
Howdy, folks. It's Miss New Vegas.
After I confronted that son of a bitch, Betty,
What
I decided to give this cool cat a chance to explain himself. Oh, who would have guessed this two-timing fink would double cross me and send some hitmen my way? Now, however you choose to deal with Benny, it kickstarts the second act, and soon the player will get a chance to interact with each major faction. But we have a big question to answer. Why are politics and video games so bad? Dumb memes aside, New Vegas is the epitome of next-level writing.
Nobody's dick's that long.
I think the best games are those that makes you think on a deeper level. By the end of the story, the player will reach acknowledging their position of power. Realizing that New Vegas is asking questions about what the most ideal
It's waiting, dude.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is how you put politics into a game and make it interesting.
There are literally 120,000 factions in New Vegas who are player advocates. There's Legion, there's PA, Mouse Club, Alcoholics Anonymous in there right now.
But who is most fit to rule the Mojave? thing's been made clear so far in our travels. This place is fucked. Someone needs to step in. Well, we are contestants. Mr. House, current dictator of New Vegas, who wields an army of Securitrons. California Republic, the old soul of America. Democratic organization that suffers from internal corruption. Caesar's Legion, a brutal imperialistic totalitarian dictatorship based on ancient Rome. And yes, man, an independent robot seeking to liberate New Vegas from the other three. But the Mojave is also made up of smaller but still important groups. The Great Khans, a nomadic tribe of raiders and drug-dealing hippies. A Brotherhood of Steel, a militarized secret society bent on preserving technology and human knowledge. The Boomers, an isolated band of explosive fanatics. Now, Obsidian did a phenomenal job giving personality and backstory to each group. More importantly, Obsidian answers the question, what kind of groups would rise from the ashes in a post-apocalyptic world set around New Vegas? Bunch of Elvis Presley impersonators, that's for sure.
It is. We don't even know what his name was. All the posters just refer to him as the Community.
This is where New Vegas reveals its royal flush. All the factions are at a poker table, and the courier is the stack of deck against whoever they choose.